Warning, this show contains strong language and topics that some viewers may find offensive. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, Suplah City. Welcome to a day that we never thought we would ever see. TNA is no more. I am Andy Guam, and with me as always is Liam Dunn.
You know, it's weird. We've spoken about the death of TNA for years, it seems, years. Every year Andy would predict TNA would go out of business, and every year he was wrong.
Thanks, mate. Every year.
If you let me finish.
Yep.
Except for this year, where, whilst not 100% correct, it didn't go out of business. He's right. TNA, apparently, it is still a rumour at this point. TNA is no more. And it's weird to now think that it's happened. In a way, I mean, we'll go into the specifics in a second, but the branding of TNA, Impact Wrestling, by the sounds of the reports that are literally just coming out as we speak, it is no more. It is gone. And we may as well explain what's going on, Andy.
Well, apparently, according to an insider called Justin Labar, he tweeted out something major. And his tweet says, just got a text saying hashtag WWE to buy TNA video library, and Billy Corgan is going to be new majority owner of TNA, and he'll likely rebrand. Wow. So if this is true, looks like we're going to get TNA on the WWE network. But the more important thing is that TNA, as it is done.
So let's kind of explain some of the things that's led up to this point, because this year in particular has been a very turbulent time for TNA.
Yes.
It's been no secret that a lot of their talent has left to join WWE. It's kind of a reversal of what was happening 10 years ago, where they left WWE to join TNA. They are now leaving TNA to join things like NXT. And TNA's kind of been struggling. It's lost a lot of credibility, it's lost a lot of the fans, and I have said many, many times, and I've said in an article on Suplah.com where I go more in depth about this before this news broke, that TNA is a toxic brand, right? It's a toxic brand. And it was only this past summer, at around Slammiversary, where the company nearly folded for the first time. This year alone, it nearly folded for the first time. And somehow they managed to survive. Money was wired through to the company. I'm not quite sure how. But money was wired through. And then it was kept afloat using Pilly. Who's Pilly?
Who the fuck is Pilly?
Billy Corgan's personal money.
Right.
The man was funding the tapings himself. And these tapings are not cheap, by the way. A taping can cost around $600,000. They are not cheap. So naturally, he wasn't going to be able to keep that up, especially if it's a company that is losing money, because he's just not going to be making his money back. It's a dumb decision to keep putting money into it. TNA was, in wrestling terms, on the ropes. The pinfall was nearly there. It was coming down to 3, but somehow they kicked out. They became the John Cena of the wrestling world, kicking out at 2. And nobody knew how they did it. We knew that they had no money for Bound for Glory. They had no money for Impact tapings afterwards. Now, they did do Bound for Glory. Apparently now, they do have tapings through to the end of this year. If that hurricane doesn't, destroy Orlando. So, with that, people were questioning, where did this money come from? Like I said, TNA is a toxic brand. It's got no fan appeal. Like, no one really takes it seriously. It doesn't know what it's doing creatively. The company's websites are a joke in 2016. It doesn't know how to handle social media. It's a toxic, disgraced brand. Who would put money into it? This is where things become... Yeah, exactly. It'd be a dumb business decision. This is where things become a little bit more interesting. Again, going back to the article that I wrote a few days ago, I noted that WWE has been very weird in 2016. They have name-dropped TNA quite a few times. The Edge and Christian show did it tongue-in-cheek when AJ Styles was on there. Speaking of AJ Styles, Steve Austin actually went in-depth talking to AJ Styles about his time in TNA. They showed a picture of AJ Styles at a TNA event. I don't know if it was a fan picture, but you could see the TNA name on the turnbuckles. Not just that, you had JBL talking to Road Dogg, and he asks him about the Voodoo Kin Mafia gimmick in TNA. And only last night, as of recording of this last night, on Talking Smack, Daniel Bryan acknowledged that AJ Styles was a former TNA World Champion. He actually said, "You are a former TNA World Champion." This is unknown of that. I mean, they've never acknowledged it on like the network shows like Raw or SmackDown. They kind of acknowledged it with the Dudleys. They said, "Oh, they're a 23-time tag team champion," but they never said specifically TNA. On the network, they've been name dropping TNA quite a bit. So I have a theory, Andy. I have a theory as to how we've got to this position.
How have we got here, Liam?
Dixie Carter. It all stems from Dixie Carter. Dixie Carter, she might be a lovely woman. I've met her. She seemed really nice for that 30 seconds that I met her. She is a terrible businesswoman. I'm sorry. There's no other way to put it. She is not talented when it comes to business. And I don't care what anybody says. She's not. How can you be a talented businesswoman when you've emptied the bank account of the company and put it in debt? Right? It's terrible. And yet, she was desperate to maintain control of the company. She was the majority owner of TNA. Right? That's why this has been such a fucking pig's ear of a sale. Because she was the majority owner. However... Oh, fuck off, Siri. I'm not talking to you. Your name's not Dixie Carter, Siri.
Your phone is Dixie.
My phone is Dixie now, apparently. I've got to reset my lighting. So, I think what's happened the past week or so, I think Dixie Carter sold some of her stake in the company. My fucking lighting's being a dickhead now. I think Dixie Carter sold some of her stake in the company, right? She sold it to Billy Corgan. Now, the reason why I think this, and this will come in later when I explain about Billy Corgan. Billy Corgan has desperately wanted to rebrand TNA because he's acknowledged the things that I've acknowledged, which I think is the things that most wrestling fans have acknowledged.
I've even acknowledged that TNA needs a reboot, like a total rebrand.
No, a rebranding. Why?
I think I said that in the last episode we did.
Yeah, but why? Because of the reasons that I said previously. It's a toxic brand that is a joke to the audience it caters to, right? That's its problem. Even Billy Corgan, who is the president of the company, whether that's in storyline or now for real, even he said if he had his way, he would rebrand it. But that's what the rumours are saying, that it will be rebranded. So this is why I think Billy Corgan is now the majority owner of TNA. Billy Corgan, to me, doesn't seem like a dumb man. I think he's probably better than Dixie Carter. Don't forget, Dixie Carter's not from a wrestling background. Billy Corgan has been a wrestling fan for years, right? Dixie Carter wasn't. I think
but
go on.
Billy Corgan's actually run a wrestling company, and by all accounts, it apparently was absolutely terrible.
Okay,
I'm just
hang on.
plugging in my laptop because it's dying.
Great.
But like, by all accounts, it was absolutely terrible. So I don't know how much faith I have in this guy.
We're not. That's not about this story. That's not about Wrestling Society X. We're talking about TNA here.
No, it's not Wrestling Society X. It was Resistance Pro Wrestling. That was his little...
Whatever it was, I don't know. Either way, I think he's been given full control of the company, right? It's the only reason why there's this rumoured rebranding, because that's what he wants, therefore he must be the majority holder. Now, this leads us into the question, where did this sudden burst of money that TNA got come from? The company didn't even have enough money to put on their biggest pay-per-view of the year. Could you imagine Vince McMahon saying, guys, I don't know if we have enough money to do WrestleMania this year? And not just that, I don't know if we have enough money to continue after WrestleMania this year. Could you imagine that?
Nope.
That was the position.
That's because Vince knows what he's doing.
Well, but that is the position that TNA was in. And then suddenly they got a load of money. and they can continue through to at least 2017.
That's strange. How would they've got money for no apparent reason?
Billy Corgan sold. I believe it's not just the tape library, right? Everyone's saying it's the tape library, and I understand that, right? Because that's what everyone is saying. Yeah, it is most likely the tape library. But I think he sold the TNA logo, the TNA branding, the Impact Wrestling branding. Because don't forget, the company that owns Impact Wrestling isn't called TNA. It isn't called Impact Wrestling. It's called Impact Entertainment or something, isn't it?
It's something Impact Ventures.
Yeah, that's the thing that we have to remember here. Impact Ventures, or the company that runs TNA, have not gone bust, right? They're not dead. They can keep going. That's why they're doing this rebranding. They can make a new wrestling promotion using the resources and the money that they already have, right? All that I think has been sold is the TNA tapes library. They don't need it. Or maybe it's a joint venture. I don't know. No one knows. It's still a rumour at this point. But I think the logos have gone. Why, if they were doing a rebranding, why would they want to keep the logos of TNA? Surely that doesn't make sense if WWE is going to own the tape library that's going to have the... Yeah, right?
I mean, the issue is that the whole thing is fucked. I mean... No one, I mean, like you keep saying, no one's going to touch this thing with a 10-foot barge pole. So, I mean, why? And the thing is, as well, if I was Billy Corgan, I would just be like, hit the reset button. Let's not do this anymore. And to be fair, TNA was Dixie's brainchild, really. I mean, yeah, you know, Jeff and Jerry Jarrett founded it originally, but the TNA that we have today is the product of Dixie Carr, and I think Bald Billy Smashing Pumpkins man is like, no, I don't want any part of this crap.
Yeah. So I think that's ultimately what it is. I think WWE has bought the TNA library. I think they've bought the TNA branding, because this is what I mean. Like the company that owns TNA have not gone out of business. So that's why I think, how can WWE market TNA if it doesn't have the promotions logos, unless they did what they did with WCW, which is make like a really shittier version of just like an Invasion WCW logo. Do you know which one I mean? Like the red shitty one.
Yeah, that weird red shite.
Yeah, that was never used in WCW. Unless they do that. But then how? I don't know how they can, because the tape library is going to have the TNA logo all over it. Can they use it if they don't own... Like, can they put that on the network if they don't own the logo?
You're talking about it like TNA is going to appear on screen. Of course they're not going to appear on screen. There's not going to be a magic invasion.
No. You're not listening to what I'm saying. When you go back and watch TNA Impact episodes, it's going to have the TNA logo, right?
Yes.
Can they show that without owning the branding?
I guess so.
Really? Because, like... If you go back and rewatch, like, I know, the Sandman's entrance in ECW, like, they put, like, generic stock music behind it.
Yeah, but you must be able to own it, sure. Like, you can't just buy a tape library and be like, well, but you can't use our logo that we don't technically use anywhere.
Hang on. I disagree, because don't forget, they've bought the tape library for a commercial purpose, not for a private purpose. They would put that on the network, or because I have a strong suspicion that Kurt Angle is going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame 2017 or 2018, right? I have a strong suspicion that's going to happen. The guy has spent more time in TNA than he has in WWE.
Yeah.
Like, how they'll make and that's the other thing. Not only do you have AJ Styles in WWE, who's now the world champion, who'd have thought that this time last year? You've got Samoa Joe, you've got Austin Aries, you've got Bobby Roode, you've got Eric Young, who's about to debut. But not just that, you've got some other guys. TJ Perkins was in TNA, although, okay, he was Malik or Suicide, one of the two. It was the same character.
Yeah, God, I'm so glad this thing's gone.
Yeah. Dean Ambrose had a dark match that is online that you can find. A lot of the stars, CM Punk, if he ever comes back, he was in TNA at one point. Like, a lot of the stars have been in TNA, or, you know, they might not have been the TNA original like AJ Styles or Samoa Joe was, but it's more footage for them to use, right? And I totally get that. You look at people like Sting, the icon Stang, right?
The icon Stang.
He spent an incredible amount of time in TNA. Right? Don't forget, at the Hall of Fame, he even gave a shout out to Joker Sting, which was a TNA thing.
Yeah.
See what I mean? Like, this has been building up in my perspective. So when Kurt Angle does eventually get inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, they're going to want to show him fighting AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode. Like, the guys who are the big stars now in the company.
Yeah, I think...
That's what they'll want. Yeah, and Sting. Right, not just that. Booker T was there. Christian was there. Scott Steiner. Just fucking Scott Steiner. Just Scott Steiner in TNA. I would watch that.
I would watch every Scott Steiner promo he's ever done in TNA.
Kevin Nash has been there. Like, so many of them have been there. Scott Hall, whilst he was drunk, out of his head. You know, Voodoo Kin Mafia, I guess, if the New Age Outlaws get inducted by themselves. You know, there is so much. And not just that, you also have the ability for WWE to do a documentary. I'm not saying like a Monday Night Wars in-depth one, but, you know, there's something there. That's something that they would want to be interested in, because I, as a consumer, would be interested in that. The problem is, TNA can't do the documentary themselves. One, they don't have the fucking money.
Yep.
Right? And two, it's going to be incredibly biased.
Yeah, I think one way or another it will be biased. I think WWE will be like, well, this company was always shit.
Well,
that's going to be their take on it.
Yeah, but what it would be is, I think it would be more realistic than if TNA did a documentary on themselves, because TNA would be like, we're the underdogs and we nearly...
You don't exist anymore!
Well, yeah, exactly. It's a moot point. But overall, it's mainly because of the tape library, because there are stars in TNA that, you know, are being the big stars now in WWE, which is a mind-blowing thing when you think about it, because the whole point of TNA was that guys like those, like Samoa Joe, who moved like a cruiserweight but looked like a heavyweight, people like AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, although he's not with WWE, but you know what I mean? Like, that was supposed to be the point of TNA. It was a home for people who WWE just didn't believe in, and now it's kind of taken their big stars.
Oh,
why would they not?
Ironic.
I mean, that is what they want. Like I said, you can do a new Sting documentary where you can focus on the 10 years that he spent in TNA. Like, he's had 2 or 3 matches in WWE. Like, he spent so much time in TNA. That's a lot of fucking ground that they can use. Yeah. Kurt Angle. I mean, when he gets inducted... If they did a documentary on Kurt Angle when he was getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, a homecoming sort of documentary, right? WWE would kill to get footage of Angle fighting AJ, of Angle fighting Samoa Joe, of Angle fighting Bobby Roode. The guys that are the stars now.
Yeah.
Angle fighting Sting, something that was a dream match back in the Attitude Era. It actually happened. WWE can show it now, and to an audience that is probably bigger than the ones who even watched TNA.
The thing is, if you were Billy Corgan, what the hell would you do? Like, would you just get rid of the 6-sided ring? Because I said what I would do. I would fucking just call it a different name and everything. But like, what would you do if you were Billy Corgan and you now own a wrestling company? I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it at this point. An entity, some kind of thing.
Okay, if I was Billy Corgan and I had the money to reboot TNA into something new, something different, I would actually look back to the prime days of TNA. And again, I know I harp on about this article that I wrote on Suplah.com. There's your plug. But I said that back in 2005 and 2006, before Panda Energy bought TNA, TNA had an identity. It did set itself apart. Yes, it had the 6-sided ring, which was unique at the time, especially in Western North American wrestling. The only other promotion I think had that was a promotion in Japan. Not Japan, Mexico had a 6-sided ring. So TNA set themselves apart with that. They gave themselves an identity. But on top of that, there's one thing that I always quote TNA for being different than. And that was the X Division. You look at the X Division now. The X Division is a shadow of its former self. Right? The X Division was not a weight division. It was basically an alternate world title. But the idea was that it was a style. Like it was a wrestling style. The catchphrase of the X Division was that it's not about weight limits. It's about no limits. And then a couple of years later, they went, oh, no, it is about weight limits. Sorry, LOL.
Yeah, that was Hogan and Bischoff's great idea.
Exactly. Right? And it got cocked up massively. The X Division... I mean, I know everyone harps on about this match, but AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, Unbreakable. Like, they main evented it with the X Division. And the X Division title. That was put on last. That was put on after the NWA Championship match. Think about it for a second, right? That's mind-blowing. Because also, the other thing you got to remember, TNA's had, like, more fucking championships than, I don't even, like, it was the fucking Legends Championship, then the Global Championship, then the Television Championship, and then the, I don't even know anymore. Like,
the King of the Mountain Championship.
The MMA Championship. And I'm not saying that the MMA Championship's a bad thing. Like, it's not my sort of thing. But you've got a championship there that can be used to create a new style. I would be like what TNA was back in the day. You don't need to be big in this day and age. You don't need to be touring, I don't think, in this day and age. Look at NXT as a prime example. TNA as well, like, they need to up their game with social media. They need to invest in someone who knows social media. Like, their website, you've got dead links. How have you got dead links?
Seriously.
I watched Bound for Glory on YouTube. Why is that shit still on there? Why haven't you taken it down? I don't give a shit. I'm saying it so that hopefully somebody sees this and is like, yeah, he's right. He just illegally watched something on YouTube and we've done fuck all about it.
I think what they need to do is just get their fucking act together. Like, they need to... I don't want to say go on tour, but get out the Impact Zone. Just get out of it. Just go, leave.
I disagree.
I don't care if you have to go into like a warehouse
I
somewhere
disagree.
and build your own thing yourself.
No, I disagree, and I'll tell you why I disagree.
Well, they're not making any money from ticket sales. That's the first fucking problem.
Well,
so you're bleeding money.
Hang a fucking bout. If you're starting again, maybe that's a good thing. Wouldn't you rather get more people in the arena to try and make it look bigger and look more spectacular than to just try and get 20 people to buy a ticket?
Well,
I know that contradicts what I just said about making things bigger. I get that. But I don't think you need to go to a warehouse. I think they're prime in Universal because you're right, they don't get ticket sales. But you know what? More people will fucking show up to the fucking arena.
How do you make money then?
Advertising!
Yeah, but I would...
Merchandise sales!
I would try and make as much money as possible.
And TNA, or whatever this imaginary company would be, would get a share of the fucking Universal Studio ticket profit. That's how they make their money. Yes, they could make more money if they went on the road, went to a bigger arena, and actually charged the people themselves, but who's to say that there would be like, you've seen like the pictures of TNA where it's like 50 people are in the crowd.
I didn't say on the road, I just said find a fucking warehouse, do it up.
No, I disagree.
You can call that...
I disagree. I think especially if you're restarting, I think they're in a prime position, frankly.
No, because you're in the same fucking location that the old piece of shit company was in. What? That's not a change. That's not a change. You want a total overhaul, you totally fucking overhaul it. Don't fucking pussy around and fucking, but we'll stay in the same place and we'll have a 6-sided ring still. Fuck off. That all goes. It all goes away. So delete. It all goes.
So hang on. What about storylines? Would you get rid of storylines?
Delete. Done. It's over.
So what about the... Okay, talking about delete, what would happen to broken Matt Hardy? Who, by the way, has pretty much single-handedly brought attention onto TNA this year.
I don't know. I don't fucking know. Just start again. Just start again. Just do it again. Just do it again. That's all I know. I'm not the how guy. I'm just the
my main issue
guy.
My main issue is that TNA's trying too hard and yet at the same time not trying hard enough. Right, here's an example. You have an episode of Impact. Right? You have an episode of Impact. In 1 hour, you've got Broken Matt Hardy and Vanguard 1 with Senor Benjamin. Right? Fine. You've got this really over-the-top, I've got superpowers, sort of, I can hold fire in my hands, sort of Matt Hardy. Wonderful! Matt Hardy.
Wonderful!
Right? That's fine. That's over the top. That is ridiculous. I don't mind that. You can have parody of wrestling. Fine. What you can't have is the next hour, a contract signing, UFC style, between Lashley, and EC3. Like, it's treated like a fucking press conference. You can't do that! That's not how this works! Have a style and stick with it. I don't like the style of Lucha Underground, but by God, they've worked that style, and they know that style, and they stick to that style.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing. Like, I'm supposed to, like, okay, if there's a storyline where people aren't laughing at the shit that Matt Hardy does, like wonderful and like if he's doing that shit, but you want me to take a press conference MMA style belt seriously, I'm not going to. Like, it's not going to happen. This broken thing has been a blessing and a curse to this fucking company, because it's been a blessing because people have gone in and said, this is fucking great, this is so bad it's good, and it's drawn attention to it. But the flip side to that is, no one can take anything that you do seriously as long as this thing exists. So you're doomed if you do, and you're doomed if you don't. So,
you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't.
Yeah, you're buggered one way or another.
So
that's what I'm saying. Delete everything. Start the fuck again.
So, Super City citizens, what would you do? Let us know in the comments below. If you were running TNA, would you agree with me and stay in Universal Studios where you don't have to worry about ticket sales, you know bums are going to be in the seats? Or are you going to be like Andy and try and take it into a warehouse in the middle of backlot of fucking nowhere and have 20 people show up?
I have one argument for doing the ticket sales thing. Then, you have to make sure that what you put on is actually good, and you have compelling characters, compelling storylines, compelling everything, so that people want to turn up and pay you money.
Oh, so hang on. So people watching at home, who the advertisers care about, they don't matter. You care more about the 50 people who show up at a warehouse than potentially hundreds of thousands of people watching at home. Okay, interesting.
No, my point
Let's leave it at that.
No, listen,
because Andy clearly is Dixie Carter in this fucking scenario.
Listen. Instead of just getting a very small percentage of ticket sales from Universal, why don't you actually just fucking make more money? Instead, like, this thing was in debt chronically because they were bleeding money and they weren't trying to think of ways of getting a fucking income. I just gave you an idea. If they keep doing the same bloody things that TNA has just done, whatever Billy Corgan's great idea is going to be, it's going to fail within a year because they can't just repeat the same shit they've just done. They need to learn from their mistakes.
Repeat.
No, repeat. God's sake.
Well, that's why I said they should look at TNA how it was in its boom period, in its peak years. I think that was a decent model. It just lost its way because of Dixie Carter and Panda Energy. Anyway, we're going to wrap up the show now before things get violent between me and Andy, because he's quite clearly in the wrong here. What would you do? How would you run the company? What do you think? And I'd like to know what people would call this company. What would you call it? Andy would probably call it Doofus Wrestling Federation. So,
Derpy Wrestling Alliance.
There you go. And are you excited that WWE has bought it? I certainly, bought the tape library. I certainly am. I think this is the absolute best scenario for everyone involved. But would you have rather seen WWE try and purchase the entire company? Would you have rather have seen TNA try and take it on by themselves and see if they could actually get themselves chronically out of debt? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, everything with this channel. And don't forget, we've also on Suplah.com, where I have my article. I don't know if I mentioned it yet. We're also on iTunes. We're everywhere. Just fucking Google the Suplah. You'll find us eventually. I have been Liam Dunn.
And I have been Andy Kwan, who's also hungover.
And we'll see you whenever the next major fucking update about this story is.
Probably in the next 5 minutes.
If only there was like this podcast where like 6 dudes talked about wrestling all the time. Like, made fun of TNA like constantly. Most of them British. Probably like 2 Americans. I think that'd be a good balance. That'd be neat. Do Let's Plays. Maybe. Like half.